Aerosmith released scores of incredible music throughout the rock and roll era. Up next, the story of one of their most provocative and haunting songs. It should have been a #1 hit on Professor of Rock. Hey music junkies, Professor of Rock, always here to celebrate the greatest artists and the greatest songs of all time. We interview the great artists of the rock and roll era, and you never know from day to day what you're going to see, what album we'll cover, what song we'll celebrate, the decade, the year. So subscribe right now, click that bell so that you never miss out on our daily content. And also don't forget to check out our exclusive content on Patreon to help us curate this. Now, I'm excited to bring you another episode from our series, #1 in Our Hearts. We talk about a song so great it should have been #1. In 1970, a brass young rock band tore up a makeshift stage while performing a concert at a high school gymnasium in Boston, leaving the attendees awestruck by what they had witnessed. The act called themselves Aerosmith, and they established a reputation of being the hardest working and most fearless band of the 1970s. I mean, seeing Aerosmith in concert was a visceral, psychotechnic experience. Aerosmith epitomized the bad boy, take no prisoners attitude of rock and roll. I mean, they were rock stars personified, led by frontman Steven Tyler, who mixed eroticism with ferocity, like mixing fire with gasoline. Lead guitarist Joe Perry and rhythm guitarist Brad Whitford unleashed a peer-baffling bluesy honk with a percussive-infused raunch and rhythm. Tom Hamilton delivered lofty, thumping bass riffs, and of course, drummer Joey Kramer didn't play the drums at all. He attacked them. Aerosmith's eponymous debut album in 1973 had a raw intensity that completely devoured the competition. Get Your Wings in 74, Toys in the Attic in 75, and Rocks in 76 were three of the rock era's most powerful albums, released in succession. Aerosmith worked hard, and they played harder, eventually spiraling into a haze of drugs and alcohol that nearly destroyed them by the dawn of the 80s. Substance abuse and ballistic infighting led to the departure of Joe Perry from Aerosmith in 79, and Brad Whitford quit the group in 81. In an interview with Guitar World, Perry remembers looking at old band pictures from the 1970s and thinking that he looked dead. The band reunited with the original nucleus in 84, but old issues continued to plague their prosperity. There was still too much partying, and the band was in serious debt with their old label, Columbia Records, owing an unrecouped advances in the neighborhood of about $100,000. Aerosmith was making money on a retooled tour titled Back in the Saddle Again, but something drastic had to be done or the once revered outfit would end up in the dreaded file for has-beens. Can you imagine? The tipping point was a bold collaboration with the trailblazing rap group Run DMC on a hip-hop rock rendition of Walk This Way, so great, with Steven Tyler and Joe Perry in 86. The mashup was a smash hit. It rose to #4 on the Billboard Hot 100, #8 on the Hot R&B hip-hop singles chart, surpassing the #10 peak position of the reissued original version on the Hot 100. Nearly a decade later. The success of Walk This Way with Run DMC was the wake-up call that Aerosmith needed to forge an incredible comeback in 87, one of the greatest ever, with a new label, a new album, and it revived their stature as one of the world's biggest rock bands. The potential for Hall of Fame greatness was there for the taking. It was always there. The 5 band members made a pact to get rid of the drugs, stay clean and sober, and do whatever they had to do to get their career back on track. The triumphant return of Aerosmith came in 1987 with the release of their 9th studio album, Permanent Vacation. The entire group was healthy and reinvigorated. The music began to flow just like it had back in the early days of Toys in the Attic and Rocks. Permanent Vacation involved the recruitment of outside songwriters, though, to collaborate with the Toxic Twins, Steven Tyler and Joe Perry, who penned most of the previous Aerosmith material. Lyricist Desmond Child. It was Desmond Child who had written hits with Bon Jovi, Living on a Prayer, and Kiss, and writer Jim Vallance, who had a long song-crafting partnership with Bryan Adams, and also penned songs for Heart, Glass Tiger, and Bachman Turner Overdrive. They were chosen to collaborate with Aerosmith. Plus, the band and their new label, Geffen Records, doubled down with a new producer, Bruce Fairbairn, who was one of the most sought-after producers of that time. Permanent Vacation, it was a monster. I mean, it sold over 5 million units in the United States alone. What a comeback. It featured 3 top 20 pop hits. Including the top 5 single, Angel. Permanent Vacation was followed by Pump in 1989. Pump, Aerosmith's 10th studio LP, sold over 2 million more copies than its watershed predecessor. The gigantic success of Pump was undeniable affirmation that Aerosmith's triumphant return to the top of the charts was no fluke. These guys were back. Regarding the wild impact of the Pump album, an article in Q Magazine stated it best, really. At a time when young guns from Motley Crue to Poison were doing their level best to hoist the heavy metal crown from the likes of Def Leppard and Bon Jovi, it took a bunch of old stagers like Aerosmith to come up with the year's best metal album. The lead single from Pump was the double entendre-induced Love in an Elevator. You know, fun rocker, went to the top 5. It also went to number 1 on the mainstream rock charts. It was a great song. It was the second single, though, from Pump that absolutely cracked my skull. It left me and many others completely awestruck. The irrepressible, avenging angel track, Janie's Got a Gun. A valiant, bone-chilling account of a young woman that takes justice into her own hands by shooting and killing her tormentor, a sexually abusive father. Compelled to do something after reading a disturbing article in Newsweek about escalating gun violence in America and an even more alarming report in Time magazine about the uptick of child abuse cases in affluent suburban areas, Steven Tyler started writing a song in his basement, and the original title was Danny's Got a Gun. Steven Tyler watched yet another expose on the network news magazine program 48 Hours that went into even greater detail about how prevalent it was for children to be attacked by their own mothers and fathers. Steven Tyler was frightened by what he learned, and he changed the title and the gender of the song's protagonist to Janie's Got a Gun. It took Steven Tyler over 9 months after his epiphany, his original epiphany, to write the lyrics for Janie's Got a Gun. Steven Tyler revealed it was the hardest song he had ever written. It's no wonder that the personal statement, such a personal statement for Steven Tyler. He was a father of 3 daughters, after all, and found it incredulous that anyone could do such a terrible thing to their own child. Janie's Got a Gun was credited as a co-write, Steven Tyler penning the lyrics and bassist Tom Hamilton composing the music. A year before Steven began writing Janie, Hamilton created an interesting chord progression that he played for the band, and Steven Tyler really liked it. Tyler told Hamilton that he started writing Janie while listening to Tom's chord progression, and it helped him finish the song. As Hamilton remembers it, Janie's Got a Gun was the only song that was pretty much ready to go before Aerosmith started the recording sessions for Pump. When Steven played it for us, we were truly in awe, is what Hamilton recounted. How could it not be? Hamilton also came up with the musical arrangement for the immortal classic Sweet Emotion and Salty Dog, along with several other memorable Aerosmith tracks. The album version of Janie's Got a Gun on Pump is preceded by a 10-second instrumental called Water Song. features the work of instrumentalist Randy Rain Roche, who uses a glass harmonica, a wind gong, and bull roars to produce the special effects heard at the song's outset. And it's amazing. It just takes you to this place immediately. The percussive instrument is a metal plate with branches of metal rods called a waterphone. The use of the waterphone as a prelude to Janie's Got a Gun creates it's a creepy, menacing aura that belays the gravity of Steven Tyler's deadly tale. I gotta say that the first 50 seconds of this song is as haunting and eerie as anything in the American music canon. Janie's Got a Gun mysteriously invigorates with Steven Tyler mondegreens in verse 1 that contribute to misheard or mistaken lyrics, such as the opening line, "Dum, dum, dum, honey, what have you done? Dum, 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 it's the sound of my gun." A lot of people didn't understand what he's saying there. And the way that Steven Tyler meanders with his mesmerizing, yelping whimpering, the voice is just gorgeous and ominous. And the way he holds out that last whimper before he tells us Janie's got a gun just bowls over the soul. Janie got a gun. By the time he sings the first line and you hear that gunshot snare drum, you're invested for life. Throughout the novella, there are sounds that conjure steam, hisses, alarms, and the aforementioned jolting Joey Kramer drum beat that evokes both a gunshot sound or even a slamming door. All of the production elements keep us riveted and rooting for Janie to put an end to her terror. What did her daddy do? It's Janie's last IOU. She had to take him down easy and put a bullet in his brain. She said, "'Cause nobody believes me, the man was such a sleaze, he ain't never gonna be the same." I mean, you think about those lyrics as words. I've never been able to get through this part ever without a huge lump in my throat and a tear in the corner of my eye. The way Steven Tyler sings this part is so empathetic and brutally honest. It's a game changer. And there's the guitar solo, which is just incredible. The guitar solo in Janie's Got a Gun, it's played, of course, by the venerable Joe Perry, legend, and is accompanied by the main riff and rhythmic clapping. Joe Perry's grasp of this song, or better yet, this tragedy, is on full display. It feels like we're falling backward into chaos and disarray. The track also makes use of the slap bass instrument patch from the Korg M1 for his guitar parts. Brad Whitford mostly performed with his gold top Les Paul. Whitford loved the tone that he got with his Les Paul, as do we, the listeners. I mean, Tyler's original lyric sheet for Janie's Got a Gun was rife with provocative language. When Geffen executive John Kalodner heard Janie's Got a Gun, he was pretty torn. He believed the song could be a big hit. In Kalodner's opinion, Janie was one of the best moments for Steven Tyler as a songwriter. He's absolutely right. It was an artful masterpiece, yet so bizarre. Examining the song's commercial viability, Kalodner was troubled with several of the original Steven Tyler lyrics. Steven went berserk when Kalodner told him the song would not get played on the radio unless he made some necessary changes to his lyrics. So Tyler and Kalodner got into a huge argument. Steven finally acquiesced to revising the second word from the R-rated original to "he jacked a little bitty baby," which I'm sure you can imagine what was once there. Kalodner also begged Tyler to change the line, "put a bullet in his brain," to stand out in the pouring rain. But Steven Tyler absolutely refused. I'm so glad that he stuck to his gun, so to speak. We needed to hear that justice was served on this sleazy pedophile. I mean, the way that Tyler delivers the line, "She had to take him down easy and put a bullet in his brain," is one of the best examples of his force as an extraordinary vocal stylist, just his magic touch with the words. Tyler's vibrating, elongated emphasis on brain is the most dramatic moment of the track, in my opinion. You can feel a sort of demented conviction in the way Stephen narrates Janie's no alternative hopelessness that led to her committing the act of homicide. This song is definitely cinema of the mind, a song that keeps us as listeners on the edge of our seat the entire time, listening to every single word, even after multiple listens. It was as if Janie represented all of the victims of incest or abuse whose lives had been disrupted and permanently scarred. There's also a very gripping background vocal overdub with Steven Tyler singing the line, "Was it Daddy's cradle robin that made her scream at night?" To me, those parts are essential to the song's potency and make Janie's Got a Gun such an imposing achievement. Late 1989 had a few of these moments in music where a hit song, colored outside of the lines of the usual themes of falling in love or breaking up or partying. I remember hearing these songs on the radio and being completely entranced. I remember that 1989 was one of the toughest years of my youth as my fears of the real life world out there began to close in on me. I was never afraid of like Freddie or Jason growing up, but I was afraid of 48 Hours in 2020, filled with real life stories of murder and sexual abuse, kidnappings, potential nuclear war and satanic cult stories. I mean, Unsolved Mysteries and the network movie of the week based on a true story alone were enough to imprison 80s kids like me in chains for many sleepless nights. I mean, you remember. I know my first name is Stephen, Adam, Walsh.
7 long years.
Can I go home today?
He had the courage to survive the man who took him.
That you? Please.
Especially for many out there who are victims of real life abuse. This song was different though. As scary, as haunting as it is, it gave me and many other victims who listened to every word like a true empowerment that we could overcome these fears, that we could stand up to the bully, that we could end the abuse. I'm not saying that we should participate in vigilante justice. I'm not at all. I'm just saying that we can overcome fear and anxiety, and that's the power that music has, especially Janie's Got a Gun. Now, the video for Janie's Got a Gun, depicting a girl killing her father and the subsequent crime scene was one of the most cinematic ever to be played on MTV. It featured, Kristen DeTio as Janie and veteran actress Leslie Ann Warren playing her mother. The legendary David Fincher directed the music video, you remember. Fincher would, of course, later direct the movies, Seven, Alien 3, Panic Room, just to name a few. And Janie's Got a Gun was just a preview of how brilliant Fincher is. Janie's Got a Gun stirred up a rousing debate at that time over gun control and the condoning of vengeful justice. It proved to be too graphic for the media in the UK as the single languished on the British charts, stalling at number 76. Janie was a smash, though, in Canada, reached number 2 and rang the bell at number 1 in Australia. The song should have easily been number 1 in America as well, but it did climb to a more than respectable number 4 on the Billboard Hot 100 and number 2 at Mainstream Rock. But wow, what a song. Number 1 in our hearts for sure. In 1990, Aerosmith received the Grammy Award for Best Rock Performance by a duo or group with vocal for their inspired musicianship on this song, Janie's Got a Gun. The week that Janie's Got a Gun peaked at number 4 on the Billboard Hot 100, February 9th, 1990, the 3 songs ahead of it were Downtown Train by Rod Stewart,
On a downtown train,
Two to Make It Right by Seduction. And Opposites Attract, Paula Abdul's duet with the cartoon cat. We come together, which would actually spend 3 weeks at the #1 spot. I think taking one of those weeks and giving it to Aerosmith is okay. Even MC Scat Cat agrees with that, I think. It's the least that we can do, all do, for the most starkly haunting hard rock murder ballads of the entire decade. A song that decades later still sounds brand new, just as potent and chilling as it did when it was released. One of Aerosmith's masterpieces, and that's saying something. Janie got out a gun. Leave us a comment about Aerosmith, incredible band, and this song, and also Steven Tyler's vocal and Joe Perry's guitar on this song. Share a memory about it. Make sure to subscribe. Join our great music community. It's great because you're a part of it. To get more content, click on our Patreon link below. To get classic music from this amazing band, Aerosmith, click on our Amazon links below. Help us keep the music alive. Until next time, 3 chords and the truth, my friends. Stay safe.